This is a very important thing. Margaret Thatcher used to say, first you win the argument, then you win the vote. And so we have to be very good about winning arguments. Let me take the Detroit school situation. I have two principles we ought to be able to take into Detroit and talk with any person. Principle number one, the children come first. Tell me the effect on the children. Don't tell me about the bureaucrats. If it's good for the children, I'm for it. If it's not good for the children, I want to change it. Now, my guess is that in the heart of Detroit, that's a 90-10 issue. And all 10% are bureaucrats who are afraid of losing their jobs. Point number two, measure the learning. I don't actually care about education. I don't care about the State Department of Curriculum list. I don't care about the School of Education and Certification. I want to know, are the kids learning or not? How do we get them to learn faster? Why are we learning faster than the Chinese? Why are we learning faster than the Indians? This is America. It's the country of dreams. But now I've got us down to a conversation that doesn't sound very political, does it? It's about life. It's about human beings. You go a step further. There's a simple story to tell. When Governor Engler was leading Michigan, Michigan got to 3.2% unemployment. The lowest unemployment rate in the history of Michigan. And he did so while cutting taxes, controlling spending, and Michigan regained a AAA bond rating, which really matters because it determines how much you have to pay on the debt. The better your rating, the less you pay. The less you pay, the more money you have for other things. Now that's a fairly simple story. On this hand we have lower taxes, more jobs, higher revenue from a bigger economy, controlled spending, really good bond ratings, therefore lower cost of debt, therefore more money available for lower taxes to have even more jobs. This is a virtuous circle of the world that works. In 11 short months, the Democrats managed to lose the AAA bond rating. This is like your teenager getting a credit card and not realizing that they have to pay. They have now run through. They have now run through all the surplus money, and they're at the edge of a crisis. But here's what we have to learn. I was just talking with Senator Bishop about this because it's very important. If I could communicate in some magic way to every Republican in the country, it would be adopt the right policies, but then adopt the right language to explain the right policies. There's a way you test the language. Do people understand it, and does it give you moral dominance? So example, let's talk about government. The Republican position ought to be very simple. No government shutdown, no tax increase. No killing jobs with higher taxes. On a state that has the highest unemployment rate in the country, getting on radio every single day, getting on TV every single day and saying, I will not vote to kill jobs. And that's what a tax increase is. I don't know why the other side wants to kill jobs. You'd think 7.4% unemployment was high enough. Maybe they're going for the all-time record. And so I refuse to raise taxes because that will kill jobs. I refuse to kill jobs because that makes our revenue even worse. And that means if you're not going to do that, you've got to control spending. It's not a complicated world. Ronald Reagan used to say, it's not that there aren't simple choices, just that simple choices are hard. Okay, so it's a pretty straightforward world. Are we going to control spending in Lansing, or is every person in Michigan going to control spending in order to pay the tax increase that Lansing demands? It's that simple. One of the two places, either the average citizen is going to control spending because they got to pay higher taxes, or the state government's going to control spending. There's not a third choice. I'm not a theoretician. I mean, I'm a college teacher, but I actually ran for Congress and helped organize the first majority in 40 years and reformed welfare and balanced the federal budget for 4 years in a row. So that I'm describing something that's fairly real. I mean, Lansing has some problems. By the way, when John Engler was in the state Senate, Lansing had some problems. And he had a very straightforward model, no tax increase. Put the government on a diet. Obesity is not just about weight of people, it's also about weight of government. And so I would urge the Senate Republicans to every day get up and pass a new, no government shutdown, no tax increase, no killing jobs budget. Make it 2 or 3 pages long and say, look, this is the amount of projected revenue this year. The governor can spend this amount. And then I would give her the power to decide how to get there. Because you're in a box right now where you can't possibly win a fight in communications if you make it complicated. But if you say, we're prepared on a bipartisan basis, we're going to give her, I think it will turn out to be about $40.3 billion or something, which most people would think of as a lot of money. And then she has the job of figuring out how is she going to survive on $40.3 billion. And I probably allocated quarterly so she couldn't spend all of it in the first 7 months. I say, Governor, you wanted this job, you fought for this job. The absolute truth is, if Dick DeVos had become governor, we wouldn't be having this fight. There wouldn't be. So she won a campaign in which she explained she could do a better job managing Michigan than a man who was a professional businessman who would actually manage something. So I would say, let's give her a chance. Here's the money. You run it. You bring in your allies, and you tell them which ones aren't getting any money this year. So let me go a step forward. And I'm going to meddle here for a second because I know that Saul doesn't fully agree with me, but I'm just going to go out on a limb here. We've got to go beyond being partisan. So first of all, notice what I just suggested to you. That the Republican Senate offer the governor enormous power for a temporary basis. That's a pretty bipartisan moment. Second, I think you ought to reach out to every taxpayer. And I think if you went across this state, you did a poll and you said, how many of you are worried about unemployment? You'd have a pretty high number. How many of you don't think we should kill any more jobs? You'd have a pretty high number. How many of you think higher taxes are going to drive more people out of Michigan? You'd have a pretty high number. Not just in Republican districts. And what I would urge you to do is to go out and create a bipartisan citizens movement to recall anyone who's for tax increases. And I would go into every Democratic district. You'll never scare them if it's a general election. Because they'll know it's a hardcore Democratic district. But let me tell you, you go in there and say, I am prepared to back and support and raise money for any anti-tax increase Democrat to beat the tax increase Democrat. And you just changed all of American politics. Because what we've had is a game where incumbents gerrymander districts. So they're never challenged in the general election. So they smugly tell you they don't care what you think because you can't do anything to them. But the morning you say to every secure Democrat in the state house who's been voting every day for a tax increase, the morning you say to them, I'm prepared to help a Democrat beat you in the primary. Because I'd rather have a coalition of Republicans who are for economic growth and jobs and Democrats who are for economic jobs and shrink the big government, big tax, big red tape, job-killing wing of the Democratic Party. You will suddenly terrify them.